Hey Buckley, so welcome back to another reading vlog. Now this reading vlog is going to be running a parallel to another reading vlog, so I genuinely don't know what's going to come first. I have no idea. But I do have two books that I need to read that are obligation reads. I basically have two book club picks happening this month. I have The Sirens by Amelia Hart. This one is I'm going to go with whimsical, dual timeline, historical, magical realism, because that's what Wayward was. I didn't love Wayward by Amelia Hart. I am hoping I will love this. On my Discord, there were half of us that really didn't like Wayward and there were half that really did. So this is kind of like the tiebreaker. This is whether or not we end up liking Amelia Hart or not, basically. This is the story, I believe, of two sisters, one who lives out in the countryside and her sister goes to go stay with her when some things happen in her life, and the sister that lives out in the countryside is nowhere to be found, and then she starts hearing these mysteries of these two girls who got transported to Australia, and given it's called The Sirens, I suspect we're going to have some kind of like allusion to sirens, the same way as with Wayward it was witchy. This one's going to be sirens. I suspect it's going to be feminist and historical, and it should be something that I love, so I have hope. I'm not 100% sure. I'm not sold. We'll see how I fare with it. Other one that I have is Paladin's Grace by T. Kingfisher. I am really excited for this one. This is one that I think I'm going to love because I love T. Kingfisher. And while I mostly prefer her horror over anything else of hers that I've read, I am hoping that this will be what kind of like really sinks me into her romance, because this is, I think, a romantasy. And in this story, we are following a group of paladins whose god, I think, has died. So they're all a bit listless. They don't know what to do with themselves. One of the paladins just wants to do like one final good deed kind of thing. So then he helps this girl who's on the run for theft, I think. I can't remember, and I don't have any way of checking. I'll tell you when I've actually read it. And I think it's a romance between the two because there's kind of some conspiracy around this girl and he needs to help her. Very excited for both of these. So hopefully I will have a good time. I'm looking forward to reading them. Either Amelia Hart's going to win me over or not, and I'm going to DNF it. And I literally will DNF. I have no issue with that. Hopefully this will be the thing that sells me on a T. Kingfisher that isn't a horror. Let's go jump into those. Once I have started one, I will give you some initial thoughts. I might start with The Sirens so that then I can reward myself with Paladin's Grace. I might do that. So we'll start with Sirens. Once I'm a little ways in, I will hopefully be able to check in and give you some thoughts. All right, vlog. I have, in fact, finished the first part of, I was going to say Wayward then, of The Sirens by Amelia Hart. And I've needed a minute to think about it before I hop in, because I don't know how I'm faring with this book. On the one hand, and I do have more negative than positive to say. So if you're an Amelia Hart fan, I am very sorry. I'm going to go through the positives though, because this is exactly the same issue that I had last time when I was reading an Amelia Hart book. I was at a point where I was so conflicted because the good was so good, but the bad, it's not that it's bad, but that it weighs too much on me for me to enjoy the book. So we'll go over the good first. I'll give you a positivity sandwich. That's the teacher in me speaking. So we'll start with the good. I really like the fact that Amelia Hart always centers feminism and femininity and womanhood and women's issues in her stories. She does such a good job of that. She's discussing the injustices that women suffer across multiple generations and the way that patriarchy just keeps reframing the way it controls women as opposed to abolishing it, and also the way that we don't hold men accountable as much as we do women. With so many conversations here, and I really, really did appreciate that. The descriptive side of the prose is really good. I do find it really immersive. It is really well written. I definitely have no trouble with the visuals. I find it very aesthetically pleasing. I also really do appreciate the way that we have some of the sisterly or familial bonds that we have going on with these sets of sisters and with the different familial relations that we have. The fact that we're centering our protagonist's mother more than we're centering her father, because it's to do with the familial line or the feminine line. All of that I think is really well done. I'm really enjoying. I think that the plot in and of itself is also a good one. So you'd think, okay, so far, Faye, you've got characters, yes, writing, yes, plot, yes. I would also argue that the pacing is good. I don't really have any huge complaints about the pacing for the most part. So Faye, what could possibly be wrong with this book? And that is that I think the author thinks I'm an idiot. I could be wrong. I just think she thinks I'm an idiot. So she's doing this, alluding to things, hinting at things for us to be able to kind of connect the dots. And I don't think that she's being very subtle about it, and that's fine. You know, maybe we are, and I feel like we're definitely supposed to figure out these things before the protagonist. But by about chapter 4, I think I had most of it figured out. Now, I could be wrong. That's why I'm continuing the book. I am continuing the book on the hopes that I am wrong, not that I am right, which is an unusual reading experience. But yeah, I'm going through the motions because at the moment, I think most of it is laid out. Now, I, at this point, am on chapter 21. I am 52% of the way into this book. At the moment, our protagonist has figured out one of the 3 to 4 things that I think are going to be reveals. I think she's figured out one. I don't see why this is enjoyable. I don't see why me figuring out something by about chapter 5, the thing the protagonist has just figured out, I figured out by about chapter 3. By chapter 5, I had figured out at least 2 more things. By chapter 10, I had figured out at least another 2 more. That means that she is 4 steps behind me, but also she is 18 chapters behind me. But the thing is, I wouldn't mind if it's like, okay, we get to watch as she uncovers these things that we've figured out. That'd be fine. But the author keeps presenting them like they're reveals, and she keeps giving us like breadcrumb clues for us to figure out the thing that, to me at least, was painfully obvious at the start of the book. It's not one of those where it's like, oh, well, you know, like I can see how I by some mere coincidence managed to figure this out and the rest of you like might have missed it. I don't think I'm that smart. I think she pretty much tells us, she holds our hand and she's like, this is a thing, and then continues to give us clues. It'd be kind of like if I said for a different book, like if we're talking about, I don't know, give me a classic. If we're talking about Cinderella, right? And the author, at the beginning of the book, goes, oh, she's going to lose her glass slipper. That's how he's going to find her, because of this glass slipper. And then throughout the whole book, the book just keeps going, there's a prince and there's a glass slipper. And there's a prince and there's a glass slipper. That's what this feels like. Like, she sat me down, she told me exactly what is going to happen, and then is still reminding me the whole time. I don't know what the intended purpose is. I don't know what we're trying to accomplish with this narrative style, because I'm not intrigued, because I'm the only intrigue I have is the hope that I'm wrong, and therefore all these clues are meaningless. So either all these clues are purposeful, but I already know, or all these clues are really annoying red herrings. Like, I don't know what we're trying to accomplish, because neither of those things are fun. So I'm just a little bit like, I don't know what the point in reading this book is at the moment. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a little notes app note about my thoughts, what I think is going to be the reveals, and I will then see if I will go tick off how many of those are correct. I won't actually tell you what they are, because I won't spoil it for you, but I will then go tick off and see how many of those I got right, or whether I was completely wrong. And I'm not sure either of those are a good thing. If I'm completely right, then what was the point in reading it? If I'm completely wrong, what was the point in reading it? You know, it's a lose-lose situation, and that's what's frustrating me. And if I were just along for the ride, if I really was just into these characters and I was really along for the ride, and I was just excited to get back to these characters and get back to the descriptions and the writing and all that, I'd be fine. But it's hindering my enjoyment. Like, I don't need the intrigue to be able to enjoy a book, but the way this is being presented, not only am I finding it purposeless, it's hindering my enjoyment at the moment. So that's an issue that I am currently having, which is a real shame. I'm gonna go continue reading this and see if I end up pulling all of my hairs out or not, and I will let you know when I have finished part 2, I guess, because I'm giving it until part 2, and then I think it depends on whether or not I will finish this book. So I'm going to go do that now, and I'll check back in a bit. Good afternoon, vlog. I'm about to go switch over to reading my other read that I have ongoing for my other vlog, but I thought I would check in because I have now finished part 2 of The Sirens. Listen, people. I want to like Amelia Hart's books. This isn't me deliberately trying to dislike this woman's books. They are feminist, historical, magical realism. They are books that should be books I love. I want to love these books. Every time I read the synopsis, I'm like, that sounds like such a me book. That being said, I just got to the end of part 2, so I'm 70% of the way into this book now. And when I tell you that at the end of part 2, we got a reveal that I have known for chapters, and it was presented as a reveal. Again, if it was just like finally the light bulb moment for the protagonist, I'd be a bit like, okay, we could have had that sooner, but okay, it's good that we had her working through it. We got to see how she got there and how she came to terms with it or whatever. But it was presented as a reveal. It was literally like the last sentence of the part was the reveal, and then that's the end of the part. I have known for ages, for so many chapters, that this was a thing that was going to happen. What is the point of reading this? I will finish it. I will. I don't know why. Mostly so that Mare and Rachel don't accuse me of like, oh, well, you didn't finish it, so you don't know. I'll finish it, but I don't dislike it. The writing style is good, but the presentation of the intrigue is abysmal. The contrast doesn't make sense to me. I don't know how a book that is written so well in other areas just isn't working for me in this area. And it might just be like it's deliberate, you know way before the protagonist does, and you get to see how she comes to figure this out for herself. Or maybe the author tried to incorporate sooner and it sounded too much like a leap without the build-up. I don't know. And like, it's no disrespect to this author. That's the thing. It's not even like I think that the author is a bad author. I just think the way that she's presenting intrigue in her books does not connect with my brain, because I already know I'm impatient then. I'm like, but I know. I don't care if she knows. I know. Tell me something new. So I'm going to go switch to my other vlog and my other book now. And I'll hopefully finish this book. And then tomorrow, hopefully I will finish The Sirens and I can give you some final thoughts on how I fared with it. But I wish I loved this more. Hey vlog, I'm checking in because I finished The Sirens. I have not felt so begrudgingly pissed about a 3-star rating in a really long time, because there were so many things about this book that would make it a 5-star read. I loved the conversations that this book was having. I love what this book was trying to do. Aside from the fact that this author clearly thinks that I am a first-rate idiot. Now, don't get me wrong, if you don't see the clues, I'm not saying that you are an idiot. I'm saying that the way she did it, it means that if you've clocked it from the start, then you just feel like you're being bashed about the head with it. Now, if you've just not clocked it, if you're reading it and you're just reading it for funsies, A, I think you're going to have a fantastic time with this book. And 2, it's not that I think you're an idiot, not in the slightest. It's more like it's one of those things. It should be either you've got it or you've not. But she keeps doing it. She keeps dropping these hints. And I feel like either you've got it or you've not. I don't know what we're trying to accomplish with the amount of hints that she drops. I don't know. I'm so tired. I am just not doing too good hormonally at the minute. And I think that's not helping with this rage that I feel inside. But boy, do I feel really fucking irritated with this book. It's got 3 stars because it's got some 5-star qualities in there, but then it just needs to get dragged down by the way that the intrigue is presented. Because Jesus flipping Christ. I mean, there was one tiny element that I didn't call until a little tiny bit later, but because I couldn't have, if that makes sense. And then as soon as it happens, I'm like, oh, okay. And that's it. And even then, I still called it like a whole part before it's revealed. So it's a lot. It's a lot of things. I don't care. And that's the thing. Like when the intrigue is that low, it makes me not care. It impedes the enjoyment of the book that otherwise would have been a really good book. And it's very frustrating. So yeah, 3 stars. And I'm angry. I am now going to be starting Paladin's what's the first one? Paladin's Grace, I think. I'm really excited for this because I'm really excited to see how T. Kingfisher does with a non-horror, because I haven't read an awful lot of her non-horror. I've read The Raven and the Reindeer, which I liked, and I've read It's Not Coming to Me. Again, zero neurons firing today. That's the thing, right? This week I have no neurons. I have been so tired. I have no fucking neurons. The sirens should not have been this easy for me to predict when I'm in my stupidest state. And like I said, it's not that I think if you don't cotton it, you are stupid. I just think it's one of those books where, like, if you've clocked it, then as soon as you have, the author clearly thinks you're an idiot because she keeps bashing about the head all of the hints. Anyway, I need to stop going back to the sirens and repeating myself. Paladin's Grace, we're following, oh crap, what's his name? Stephen. Of course we're following Stephen. Nothing says fantasy like Stephen. We're following Stephen, and his god died. Before he dies, he just wants to do one more good deed. He wants to do, so then he encounters Grace, who was a witness to an assassination gone wrong, and now is being pursued by all the wrong people. So he sets out to go help her, and it's a romance between the two. I believe that this story, the 4 books, follow 4 different paladins that were all paladins for this god. They were all like I don't know what a group of paladins is. It's not a coven, but you know what I mean? So we're following a different romance in each book, which is my preferred form of romance personally. I really don't like romances that get dragged out because I think that the way that the plot conveniences or inconveniences happen to kind of keep them apart for 3 books doesn't work for me. So I'm excited to see how I fare with these and how I fare with T. Kingfisher's romance. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it, and I love T. Kingfisher characters, so I'm going to go dive in. I'm going to stop rambling. This is probably going to be one of the messiest updates I've done. I'm so sorry, editing Faye, and I am so sorry to you, but I am not with it. But we're going to move on, and I will let you know when I have started Paladin's Grace. Hey vlog, I am here to check in because I have now started Paladin's Grace using my Kindle for this one. So I use my tablet for the first book and I'm using my Kindle for this one. And I'm trying to see what is better to annotate with. When it comes to actually taking notes, this one is a lot slower because I don't even have a keyboard. I literally have to like type it out with this because it's a really old Kindle. I actually got an email telling me that it's going to be discontinued from the 20th of May or something. So I'm going to have to figure out what the fuck I'm doing after that. Started Paladin's Grace on here just to compare the annotation process. Given that the prompt was to annotate a book, I thought I've already tried annotating a physical book. I'm not a fan. I tried to do a spoiler vlog for a book, but I ended up DNFing it and then was having trouble with the footage and I didn't bother. But I did try annotating Emberclaw in pencil and I was not a fan. I didn't enjoy the process. I know a lot of people do. I don't like my handwriting and I'm not visually artsy-fartsy enough in that regard to be able to be like, oh, I want this color for this thing and this color for this thing, because until I'm reading the book I don't know what different categories I'm going to want to highlight, if that makes sense. Like, is this going to be the kind of book where I'm going to want to highlight the magic system or highlight the politics or highlight the characters or highlight the romance? I don't know what different things I'm going to want to highlight, to have all these different color highlighters and different color tabs. I don't know how to do that, so it's something I could potentially learn. It's something that I would like to do with things like classics and maybe non-fiction, but with fiction I never know until I'm in it what I'm looking for. So I thought, okay, well, I'll just try it on the Kindle because then I can go change the colors at will, you know? So I did that on my tablet. I did the first book for the Sirens, and this time I'm doing it solely on my Kindle. Now, for highlighting just random passages on the Kindle is better, especially because the way that I go about it, I can then literally just be like click, click, sorted, as opposed to kind of like highlighting the whole thing like I do on my tablet. But again, with the note taking, the tablet's better than this one. So at the moment, the annotation process is just something I'm doing for Magical Readathon and something I'm not hugely crazy about either way. Random ramble aside, I am now on chapter 6. Not even picking that up, is it? There you go, chapter 6. So our 2 leads have just met. So we're not very far in plot wise, but we're literally nowhere near the synopsis that you get. I am really liking this though. Absolutely love the world building that the T. Kingfisher manages to pull off. I think that she's brilliant with world building. I'm finding this just so fun. I love her writing style. It's so easy to sink into. I love her characters. She does such a good job of writing like quirky, relatable characters. Like we have a paladin. She's describing things like depression really well, the inner monologue, the humor and banter. It's none of that really stoic thing going on, but at the same time, he still feels like a paladin. I don't know. A lot of it is just feeling a lot of fun, and that's what I want from a T. Kingfisher book. So I'm hoping that that will continue. So far, I am really liking it. I am happy to continue, and I think that this is going to be like a really fun like palette cleanser series for me. I do love the way that this world is feeling in terms of it feels like a fantasy setting, and you've got obviously this paladin kind of goes into berserk mode, but it feels very cozy fantasy in the traditional sense. It's what I like to call gentle fantasy. It's not quite the same as cozy. I know that cozy is, for me, cozy lately has become very much a contemporary story in a fantasy setting, like Legends and Lattes. It is definitely something you could just have set in like New York City. It's just that it happens to be set in a fantasy world. You know, it's just someone opening up a coffee shop. Or House in the Cerulean Sea, which again is something that could be just set in the real world, but it's just got the fantasy elements to it. What I like to call gentle fantasy, they are ones that still have stakes, they still potentially even need things like content warnings, but that they are ones that aren't hugely action-packed and they're not particularly dark. I'm thinking both the likes of like Tolkien with the Hobbit and the Lord of the Rings, but also maybe the Marie Brennan Lady Trent books, which again have got some really difficult things going on in them, but the tone is gentle and the pacing is gentle, and there's none of these like big action-packed moments, but bad things can still happen to certain characters and things like that. And that's kind of what this is feeling like. It does feel like there are stakes. It does feel like there is stuff that's going to happen that isn't just what you'd find in a regular contemporary. It's not just a veneer of fantasy. It is like an epic fantasy. It's just gentle in the way it's presenting, and that's what I'm really enjoying. So I'm looking forward to continuing. I'm going to go do that in a bit. I'm going to go do stuff. I'm going to go get some stuff done, and then later on I need to film as well. So I don't know how much more I'm going to get read this morning. It might need to be lunchtime before I pick it back up, especially because I've got another vlog, as I said, in the background where I'm also reading books for that. So I've got a lot going on this morning, so I should probably stop rambling and go get to it, shouldn't I really? Hey vlog, I'm checking in because I am now halfway through Paladin's Grace. So I thought it would be a good time to update you. I'm flying through this. I am absolutely flying through this. It's so easy to read. I love T. Kingfisher characters. Something can be said for if you don't like a T. Kingfisher protagonist, I don't think T. Kingfisher is going to be for you. Because they're not all the same. They're all very distinctive in my head, but there are certain elements that just make a T. Kingfisher protagonist a T. Kingfisher protagonist. Very niche interests, and therefore they have like a very specific knowledge. They all have a very specific type of humor, and they all are potentially a bit clumsy, a bit of a hot mess, and they are someone who is both simultaneously very intelligent and a bit of a disaster. All of that is present in most T. Kingfisher protagonists that I've read. Do I fucking love it anyway? 100%. 100%. No difference here with Grace. She is fabulous. Stephen's adorable. I literally said in my Discord, never thought that like a fantasy protagonist I would find hot would be called Stephen. But here we are. Good old Stephen. He knits socks. He knitted her some socks. Love this man. I am not in a good place hormonally. So this is doing everything I need it to do. So yeah, I'm going to keep reading. This is not a long update. It's not a comprehensive update. I don't have a huge amount of thoughts. I'm curious about the mystery. I am more than happy for this mystery to go unresolved for a prolonged period of time so that we can see them together. I really like the dynamic between the two because they're both just chaotic. I would love for both of these characters to be bisexual because they are giving bisexual disaster vibes just all over. Both of them are like, oh no, why would the other person like me? Because they're both slightly broken people. And I don't know, I just really like it. I'm having a good time. I'm liking the character dynamics. I'm liking the secondary characters. The world is D&D enough to be immersive without being over intrusive with its description, which is very T. Kingfisher with her fantasy, which I really appreciate. I'm curious about the murder. I'm more just here for the couple to be a hot mess together. So I'm looking forward to continuing. And that is exactly what I shall do. So when I have finished this one, I'll check back in, and that will probably be the end of this vlog as well. So you're nearly at the end, folks. Hey vlog, checking in for a final time because I have now finished Paladin's Grace. I probably could have checked in at the 75% one with this one, but I know that I normally, after I've got to the halfway point, I don't really do any more updates since I've finished, because it's very hard to talk spoiler free, I suppose, about things by the time we're talking about the 75%, and then I always fear that I'm going to be repeating myself between the 75% and the 100%. Because I'm not doing spoilers, I always feel like I'm just going to say the same thing twice, so I don't normally bother. I actually probably could have with this one, but it was quite late at night, so I didn't. So I suppose, I don't know, we'll see if this is a long update. But we did have, between the 50% mark and the 75% mark, we had a little bit of a dip in my preference, because we got past the will they won't they and we got into the will they. Now don't get me wrong, there was no third act breakup in here, which is my favorite thing about romances, is the ones that don't have third act breakups, because I hate third act breakups. I understand the point of them. I understand that they are a staple of the genre for a reason. I'm not a fan. With this one, I think it was handled really well in that sense. However, there was a brief moment, like I said, we got past the will they won't they, and we got into their own fears and their unwillingness to leap into the relationship a little bit. I can see that this will frustrate people. I would rather this than a third act breakup, but I didn't know we weren't going to get a third act breakup, so I thought we're getting this and a third act breakup. If we'd got a third act breakup as well as this, it would have been Dr. Star, but we didn't. It was in lieu of one, and somehow that worked for me. Watching these two deeply insecure people, these two people who have been through the ringer, have such a complicated relationship because they've got so much to overcome, it did a really good job, I think, of showing what I imagine dating in your 30s and 40s would be. I don't know. I hope I never have to know, because I've been with the same guy since I was 12. So it's not quite the same thing. From what I've seen with friends, especially nowadays, like most of my friends that are single now are just like, I'd rather be single than date again. So like, it's complicated. And I think it did a really good job of, the older you get before you enter into a relationship, the more baggage you bring. But it also means that then you're more whole as a person. So then if someone's falling in love with you, they're falling in love with you, with every part of you. It did a really good job of showing that, you know, it's not just the hormones and all of that. It did a good job of showing the things they admire about each other and the way that they would happily be around each other. And the way it ended, I think, was really good as well. I obviously can't talk about that part, but the way it ended, the way that the relationship has landed is so lovely. I really appreciated it. This was such a different take on romance, and that's my favorite thing about Kingfisher. Every single time I read T. Kingfisher, you'll get all of the T. Kingfisherness, so they're not unique in that sense, but they're such a lovely slight variation on the genre. There's not enough of a variation for you to be like, this is unrecognizable. She's not reinventing the wheel, but she always does just something, makes it really different, that makes it really unique. And I like that, and I appreciate that. And I am always happy to read T. Kingfisher because I'm always happy coming out of them. Even the horrors is the thing. She brings me joy as an author, and this was no exception. We had a court drama section going on. We had where we are kind of doing the investigation bit, and then the way that all kind of tied together. And one of the things I did appreciate, obviously without getting into spoilers, is that it wasn't a one size fits all to the problems. You know, like when we started getting solutions, it wasn't just one solution tidies everything up, but at the same time didn't feel like it was really convoluted. The two can exist very well in the way that this wrapped up, and I really appreciated that as well. So overall, it was just a really good book. Not a 5-star, this is the best thing I've ever read, but it was a really solid 4-star. I liked the romance, I liked the investigative part, I liked the fantasy part as well. You know, when we're talking about it, we're talking about the risks that this fantasy world has. You know, we're talking about a paladin who goes into berserk mode. We are talking about a world in which there is magic and there are gods. There are religious factions that all serve a purpose within this society. And all of those things combined, it just made for a really nice immersive experience, I suppose. So you've got a really cool fantasy setting, very D&D vibes, unique enough. It's got like its own little bits to it that make it unique. We have some really competent characters. My favorite thing is competent characters. And while our protagonists do kind of blunder through things because they're out of their own depth within their own areas of expertise, they are very competent people. But then around them, there are so many competent people. The bishop for the White Rat is literally my favorite character. I love her so much. And then the humor in it, I love Tea Kingfisher humor. It's weird because the way I'm praising it, you think this should be 5 stars. And like, it should be in a way, like the way I'm talking about it. It just hasn't given me that I'm going to be thinking about this. This is going to encapture my whole soul. But maybe that's not the point. I don't know. Maybe I'll look back on it in a month's time and be like, well, you know, when I'm doing my wrap up for the month and be like, no, this is a 5 star. This is one that it could be, which is weird because normally I go, oh, 5 star. And then afterwards I'm like, okay, maybe not. Maybe it's got more flaws than I thought, and then kind of bring it down to a 4. This one, I'm giving it a 4 because it doesn't feel like new favorite territory, but it does feel like a really solid book that I really, really appreciate. So I'm in a bit of a weird place with it, but I liked it. I'd highly recommend. I'm looking forward to continuing. If you are wanting to join the book club while we talk about it, happening over on my Discord, again, the month of April for this one, and then the next one is going to be in June if you wanted to join us. So that concludes this vlog. I read 2 things on 3 devices. So let's talk about that. So I read both Sirens and Paladin's Grace. The Sirens it met my expectations in the sense that, very much like my previous experiences with Amelia Hart, that I really liked a lot of it. I really liked the writing. I really liked the character work. I loved the themes, but the intrigue doesn't work for me. And it was exactly the same as Wayward. So I don't think that this is an author for me. This might be the kind of author where this might be the definition of insanity for me. This might be the author where I keep picking up her books, even though they keep disappointing me, because every single time there's just enough in it that I'm like, everything about this should be a new favorite 5-star read, except one thing. But that thing is so prevalent, it knocks off 2 stars. We'll see how I fare with this author, if she gets another one out, if I decide to try it or not. And then, of course, Paladin's Grace, which I had a fantastic time with, and I know that I love Tea Kingfisher, so it was a relatively safe bet. I read on 3 devices, obviously for anyone who doesn't care, because this is a vlog where I was talking about annotating books and trying new methods of annotating. Because I've tried physically annotating before, although I could try that again. I know, I could brave it. But for now, I have tried annotating in my book in pencil. I didn't enjoy the experience more than anything, is that I've just got to constantly have a pencil on me now, and it was really annoying. I tried annotating on my 3 digital devices. So I started out where I read all of the Sirens on my tablet, which probably is the most practical experience, I'm not gonna lie, but my tablet is my least favorite device to read on. So while it was the best one to annotate on, with it being my least favorite to read on, it still doesn't really live up to my hopes and dreams, you know? Then we have my Kindle, which was great for reading. I love reading on my Kindle. It's tiny, it's really lightweight, I love the screen, I love reading on my Kindle. Annotating, if I'm just highlighting, is perfectly easy on my Kindle. If I'm wanting to make notes, then it's difficult because I feel like I'm in the 90s with the way I have to type, because it's move around with the arrows on the bottom, move around to go find each letter. It's like typing on the PlayStation, which is not great. And the buttons aren't. This Kindle is 14 years old at least. So, you know, it's not doing its best with the buttons anymore. And then the other one is I did also read a bit on my phone. So my Kindle needed charging again. It's old. It doesn't retain battery like it used to. It lasts like a day. It needed charging, and while it was charging, I read on my phone, and I like annotating on my phone. I'd say my phone is probably my favorite if I'm wanting to annotate, which is so bizarre. I don't love reading on my phone as much as I do on my Kindle, and I don't love annotating on my phone as much as I do on my tablet. But for annotating, it was the best one because I like reading on it more than I do on my tablet. but I like annotating on it slightly more than on my Kindle. So it's a very strange experience for me, where it's got me to compare all of my devices and see how I fare with them. At least now I know if I want to annotate something, get it digitally and do it on my phone. But yeah, let me know how you annotate. I am always curious to know, for the people who do like the really pretty, cool, aesthetic annotations, like how do you decide what's going to be what color? How do you make those decisions? I'm not decisive enough. How do you know what to make look nice? If I make a note, I kind of run away with it a little bit and then I end up not having space. Or how do you do it? I'd love to know. If you've got any videos with an annotate with me kind of process, like annotate this book with me kind of video, or you're planning on making one, or you have a method for it, please let me know down below. I'd be really curious, because the only ones I've ever seen are for like romance, which is great, but I want to know how to annotate fantasy because I would like to try it. That is all for this video. I hope that you've enjoyed, and I hope that maybe this has encouraged you to want to join the book club. We're having some fun discussions about these books over there as well. If you want spoiler thoughts, then you're welcome to join the Discord. It is always linked in the description. Shameless self-promo, I guess. But I love my community over there, and I'm always hoping that more awesome people will come join us and chat, because it's a lovely space. It's my favourite place on the internet to be. I've got the best people in there. That is all from me for today, so thank you ever so much for watching, and I'll hopefully catch you in another one soon.